For a very long time now, the stories circulating in our culture have been controlling the way we live our lives, the choices we make, our prejudices and biases, even when it comes to the way we see and value ourselves. Now, in this modern world shaped by the iron grip of patriarchal narrative, there is one particular imbalance, a problem that comes up time and time again in myth after myth and fairy tale after fairy tale. In other words, story itself seems to be begging us to fix this problem. This is how to understand it and respond to the call. By the way, my name's Hazel Gale. I'm a former therapist turned author and creator of the mental health game Betwixt. And I'd like you to call to mind one of the following tales. Rapunzel, Sleeping Beauty, the myth of Persephone or King Arthur's Knights, or the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It doesn't matter which you pick because these stories all fit the same archetypal blueprint. They are all powerful echoes of the collective unconscious crying out for the retrieval of the lost feminine. In each story, a princess, a damsel in distress, or other symbol of femininity like the Holy Grail is sought, rescued, or recovered from some distant place. Rapunzel is liberated from her tower, Sleeping Beauty awakened from her enchanted sleep, Persephone delivered from the underworld, the Holy Grail quested for by King Arthur's knights, or good old Indiana Jones, a modern day knight. These stories get told and retold ad infinitum. But why? Why is this particular trope so enduring? And why does it resonate so deeply within us? We are very familiar with the idea of men being in power, but it hasn't always been that way. Archaeologist James Mallart's excavations at Çatalhöyük, which is a prehistoric site in Anatolia, revealed evidence of not just an ancient matriarchal society, but a utopian matriarchal society where peace and equality reigned. I quote, "There had been no wars for 1,000 years. There was an ordered pattern to society. There were no human or animal sacrifices. Vegetarianism prevailed, for domestic animals were kept for milk and wool, not for meat. There is no evidence of violent deaths. Above all, the supreme deity in the temples was a goddess." Now, apparently some still dispute that Çatalhöyük was a matriarchal society, but even the naysayers still consider it an example of a gender equal civilization where men and women enjoyed the same status. Either way, it sounds pretty damn good, and Çatalhöyük was surely not a one-off. Before the Old Testament was compiled and the vibrant pantheon of mixed-gender polytheism was replaced by a single father god, mythology celebrated both gods and goddesses who came in any number of different forms. But many of these narratives were all but erased by Hebrew scribes at first and then later their Christian counterparts as they curated a selection of religious stories designed to bolster the supremacy of a singular patriarchal god. This paved the way for millennia of female persecution and servitude, so thanks for that. But it wasn't just the feminine that had to be done away with. In her fascinating book Androgyne, June Singer argues that the archetype of the sacred androgyne also suffered the same fate as those demoted and forgotten ancient goddesses. That before patriarchal monotheism swept through the world like some kind of devouring virus, a kind of godly androgyny, that is, god figures that embraced both masculine and feminine, was seen as the pinnacle of divinity. Which makes sense really when you think about it. The ultimate god would surely be not either or, but both and. Yet, in our patriarchal modern world, this wisdom, of course, has been lost. Today, while we are increasingly aware of our biases, the roots of these biases run so deep that it will take generations, if not more millennia, to fully heal the rift. But what I find fascinating is that we've known about this for literal ages, which is why myths, fairy tales, and modern stories alike continually dramatize this search for the lost feminine. The collective unconscious is shouting at us, trying to get us to listen. We, as a species, have lost something vital that, just like the wounded fisher king, has left us chronically injured and in desperate need of healing. So, I reckon we need to start thinking of stories like Rapunzel and Indiana Jones as urgent calls to action. It was stories, specifically their curation, twisting and deletion, that tore open this divide in the first place. And because, as American literary scholar Jonathan Gottschall implores us to remember, the storyteller rules the world. It's storytelling that can and must remedy this age-old problem. In other words, we need to start telling and sharing more stories from diverse authors about diverse characters. The world has had enough of the hero's journey. It's time for something different. So to get this started, I am inviting you to share the name of a book or movie or any other kind of story that breaks the patriarchal mold below, along with where we can find it. And if you're retelling stories like this, tag me in your posts so I can reshare them. I can't wait to see what you come up with.